February 26, 2022. 2:29 a.m. A security camera mounted in a Luton apartment building records four figures racing down a dimly lit hallway. Two women explode through the exit door first, fleeing. 19 seconds tick by. Then two men follow in their wake. But here's what freezes your blood. One of them is gripping a large knife in his right hand. And then, the lens captures something that will torment investigators for months to come. A man staggers into frame. Completely naked. Limping. Drenched in blood. He claws at the door handle and crumples to the ground. His name was Saul Murray, 33 years old, father of 6 children. And merely hours before this moment, he believed he was about to experience the night of his dreams. He had absolutely no clue he'd been messaging his own murderers on Instagram. This is that story. What you're about to witness involves a calculated honey trap operation, date rape drugs, counterfeit Rolex watches, and a coordinated assault, all documented on surveillance cameras. But this wasn't some spontaneous act of violence. This was a methodical pattern. A criminal enterprise. A scheme designed to generate what appeared to be effortless money, until everything spiraled into irreversible tragedy. By the time we reach the end, you'll understand precisely how 4 individuals' insatiable greed propelled them from Instagram direct messages to a murder conviction, and how a rare designer jacket, a vacuum cleaner at a petrol station, and cutting-edge vehicle tracking technology ultimately brought them to justice. But let me transport you back to where this nightmare truly originated. Our story doesn't begin in Luton, but rather in Stratford, East London, with a woman named Supreet Dillon. 36 years old. Striking appearance. Highly active on Instagram. And she'd engineered what she believed was the flawless crime. Here's how her operation functioned. Supreet would systematically scroll through Instagram, hunting for one very specific type of prey: young men broadcasting their wealth. Designer timepieces. High-end vehicles. Cash displayed carelessly. You recognize the type. Those individuals who simply cannot resist flaunting their affluence across social media. Once she identified a suitable mark, she'd slide into their direct messages. Initiate casual conversation. Deploy subtle flirtation. Now, Supreet was undeniably attractive. And these men? They were eager. Almost predictably so. The dialogue would seamlessly transition from Instagram to WhatsApp. They'd exchange messages. Share personal details. Construct what felt like genuine connection. And then she'd float the suggestion: meeting in person. Face to face. The implication perpetually lingered unspoken. This encounter would transcend mere conversation over drinks. But here's what these unsuspecting men never comprehended. Supreet possessed a devastating weapon. A chemical compound called GHB, the notorious date rape drug. It contains powerful hypnotic and anesthetic properties. And when they finally met, when her target was comfortable and unsuspecting, when he believed the evening was unfolding exactly as anticipated, she'd covertly slip it into his beverage. And when they succumbed to unconsciousness, she'd methodically strip them of their valuables. Between October 2021 and February 2022, a mere 4-month span, Supreet had successfully executed this honey trap scheme against at least 6 men. 6 separate victims. And the profits were staggering. One victim alone surrendered over £32,000 to her in a single night. Let that figure settle for a moment. £32,000 extracted from one evening's deception. Now, this wasn't Supreet's inaugural encounter with law enforcement. She already carried a suspended sentence for possession of a disguised firearm. Authorities had flagged her for keeping fighting dogs without proper licensing. This woman possessed a documented criminal past. But this particular scheme? This honey trap operation? She genuinely believed she'd refined it to perfection. On 4 of these calculated robberies, she'd even recruited an accomplice, a 21-year-old woman named Temideo hailed originally from Gillingham, currently enrolled at Coventry University. A 3rd-year undergraduate student. 0 criminal record. Completely clean background. Simply a student seeking supplemental income. Or so she'd convinced herself. But remember that number: 6 successful operations executed flawlessly. Because victim number 7? That's precisely when everything would transform into something horrifically, fatally wrong. Now let me introduce you to the man standing at the heart of this tragedy. Saul Murray, 33 years old. Residing in Luton, approximately 30 miles northwest of central London. Father to 6 children. 6. And here's what you absolutely must understand about Saul. He was genuinely attempting to rebuild his life from the ground up. He'd recently been released from prison where he'd served 5 years for assault and possession of a firearm. 5 years separated from his children. 5 years imprisoned with his regrets. 5 years to contemplate the decisions that had led him there. But he was free now. Clean slate. New apartment in Luton. New chapter waiting to be written. He desperately wanted to be present for his children. Become the father they deserved. Now, Saul possessed one particular vulnerability, and this detail is crucial because this is precisely what transformed him into prey. He was obsessed with Rolex watches, and he was compelled to display them on Instagram. Photograph after photograph of expensive-looking Rolexes adorning his wrist. Gleaming metal. Luxurious timepieces. The kind of posts that broadcast unmistakably, "I've got wealth." And on February 9, 2022, someone took notice of those posts. Someone who was deliberately scanning Instagram, specifically hunting for men exactly like Saul. Supreet Dillon transmitted a message. "And Saul?" he replied. The exchange initiated on Instagram. Playful. Light-hearted. Getting acquainted. Then, mirroring her established pattern with all previous victims, Supreet migrated the conversation to WhatsApp. More private. More personal. The messages evolved increasingly flirtatious. More provocative. And Saul was captivated. Why wouldn't he be? Here was this attractive woman expressing genuine interest in him, and the conversation was progressing somewhere thrilling. For 2.5 weeks, they communicated. Constructing anticipation. Manufacturing trust. Saul had zero comprehension he was being assessed. Evaluated. Marked for robbery. He had zero awareness that every message he transmitted, every photograph he shared, was being catalogued to orchestrate a crime. And he had absolutely zero understanding that in 17 days, those Instagram direct messages would be read aloud in a courtroom during a murder trial. February 26th was rapidly approaching, and Saul Murray had mere hours remaining to live. February 26, 2022. It commenced like any ordinary Saturday for Saul. But this Saturday was destined to be anything but ordinary. Because that evening, Supreet transmitted a message that would irrevocably seal his fate. She informed him she was going to be in Luton that very night, supposedly meeting up with a girlfriend. And then she posed the question Saul had been anticipating. "Do you want to meet up?" Saul was enthusiastic. He told her he'd be available until approximately 1 a.m. Perfect timing, Supreet calculated. But here's what Saul didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have known. This wasn't going to be merely Supreet appearing at his doorstep alone. Earlier that day, roughly 30 miles away in London, 4 individuals were meticulously preparing for the night ahead. Supreet Dillon, Temideo Orr, and 2 men, 29-year-old Cleon Brown and 31-year-old Ike Mafia. One of them, Cleon Brown, had rented a Mercedes A-Class, their getaway vehicle. The strategy was straightforward. The identical blueprint that had succeeded 6 times previously. Supreet and Temideo would visit Saul's apartment. They'd share drinks. They'd administer GHB to incapacitate him. And when he was unconscious, they'd systematically extract everything valuable they could locate, especially those gleaming Rolex watches. Easy money. Swift execution. In and out. But this time, they'd arranged backup. Cleon Brown and Ike Mafia would position themselves nearby in the Mercedes, just in case something deviated from the plan. Just in case Saul didn't succumb as easily as the previous victims. Just in case they required muscle. At 11:47 p.m., the Mercedes pulled into Luton. The 4 of them sat in that vehicle, reviewing the plan one final time. And then, just after 11 p.m., Supreet Dillon and Temideo Orr approached Saul Murray's apartment building. Saul answered the door wearing a genuine smile. He'd purchased brandy specifically for this occasion. This was going to be a memorable night. He welcomed them inside.
She's the one that initiated the meet-up and the conversation, and she was the one that's propped open the door to allow the two guys access.
Meanwhile, Clean Brown and Ikem Afia drove to a nearby McDonald's drive-thru, acquired food, sat in the car, waiting, watching. They were the insurance policy. Inside Saul's flat, everything appeared to be progressing according to their established protocol. The three of them settled in, poured drinks. The brandy flowed freely. Saul was comfortable, excited, optimistic. These two attractive women were in his apartment, and the night was still young. He had zero comprehension that his drink had been laced with GHB. He had zero awareness that at that precise moment, the two women positioned across from him were merely monitoring the time, waiting for the drug to take effect. He had zero understanding that everything was about to spiral catastrophically out of control. Because here's the critical reality about GHB: dosage is everything. Miscalculate even slightly, and it doesn't function the way you anticipate it will. And on this particular night, in this specific apartment, something was fundamentally different. The drug wasn't working fast enough. Let's pause here for a moment, because what transpired next is where this transforms from robbery into murder. And we know what occurred because of one crucial element: CCTV cameras. The communal hallway of Saul's apartment building was monitored by security cameras. And those cameras documented everything. At 11:58 p.m., the camera captures Supreet Dillon bursting out of Saul's apartment into the hallway. She's moving frantically. Urgent. She seizes a broom and props open the main entrance door to the building, the door that would normally remain locked.
Out into the communal walkway, you go to the front door, you open the front door and prop it open using one of the brooms in the hallway already. Tell me about why.
Then she steps outside into the darkness. And here's where it becomes chilling. She begins flashing her mobile phone torch. On, off, like a distress signal. And that's precisely what it was. Less than 2 minutes later, the camera captures two men entering the building through that propped open door. Clean Brown, Ikem Afia. They move quickly, purposefully, advancing straight towards Saul's apartment.
Sales have been let inside the property by you leaving the front door propped open.
The backup had been summoned. Now, we can't know with absolute certainty what happened inside that apartment during the next critical minutes. The cameras couldn't penetrate those walls. But forensic evidence later revealed there was sexual contact between Saul and the two women. Which means this: the GHB hadn't knocked Saul unconscious completely. He was still aware, still functioning. And when two unfamiliar men suddenly burst into his apartment, men he'd never encountered before, Saul must have realized something was catastrophically wrong. There was a confrontation, a physical struggle. And then, violence erupted. At 2:29 a.m., nearly 3.5 hours after Supreet and Temedeo first arrived, the hallway camera captures the women fleeing from the apartment. They are sprinting, panicked, terrified. 19 seconds later, Clean Brown and Ikem Afia follow. And this is the image that would ultimately help convict them. Ikem Afia is clearly visible on camera, gripping a large knife in his right hand. The blade catches the overhead light. 19 seconds. That's the only separation between the women escaping and the men following with a weapon. But then, the camera captures something else. Something that still haunts everyone who's witnessed this footage. Saul Murray appears in the corridor. He's completely naked, hobbling. Every single step appears agonizing. His body is drenched in blood. He reaches the communal door, the identical door Supreet had propped open hours earlier, and he pushes it open. He's attempting to escape, desperately seeking help, fighting to survive. And then he collapses, right there in the doorway, in an expanding pool of his own blood. The camera continues recording. Indifferent, Saul Murray lies there, alone, bleeding profusely. For 90 minutes, he remained there. 90 agonizing minutes. until a night shift worker returned home at 4 a.m. and discovered him. They immediately dialed 999, but it was far too late. Saul Murray, father of 6 children, desperately trying to rebuild his life, who believed he was about to have a romantic encounter, was dead. The post-mortem examination revealed the cause: a deep penetrating wound to his thigh that had severed his femoral artery. He'd bled to death. One cut, one critical artery, and a man's entire existence was extinguished. His children would never see their father again. And for what purpose? 4 Rolex watches that Saul had been displaying on Instagram. But here's the twist that renders this even more tragic, even more senseless. Those Rolex watches? The ones that got Saul targeted? The ones that 4 people believed were worth stealing? The ones they killed for? They were counterfeits. Cheap knockoffs. Not worth hundreds or thousands of pounds. Essentially worthless. A man died for fake watches. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because at 4 a.m. on February 27th, as paramedics officially pronounced Saul dead at the scene, 4 people were already fleeing. They believed they'd escaped. Gotten away clean. They had absolutely no idea that the very technology they'd exploited to locate their victim was about to be weaponized against them. The hunt had commenced. When detectives arrived at the crime scene, they immediately recognized they were confronting something extraordinary. A naked man. Dead in a communal hallway. Unmistakable signs of a violent struggle inside his apartment. But who killed him? And what was the motive? The first breakthrough materialized rapidly, because remember, this entire hallway was monitored by CCTV. Investigators retrieved the footage and watched in real time as the crime unfolded before their eyes. 2 women entering at 11 p.m. Sapreet propping the door open. The mobile phone torch signal. 2 men entering with purpose. All 4 fleeing in panic. The knife. And Saul's heartbreaking final moments. It was all documented. The entire sequence of events preserved digitally. But who were these individuals? The answer emerged from Saul's mobile phone. Detectives meticulously scrolled through his Instagram direct messages and WhatsApp conversations. And there she was, Sapreet Dillon. Weeks of progressively flirtatious messages. Detailed plans to meet up that specific evening. From the CCTV footage, they could definitively confirm that Sapreet was one of the 2 women who'd been inside Saul's flat that fatal night. They examined Sapreet's social media activity. Her recent posts. Who she'd been photographed with. Her digital footprint. And there was Temideo or recent photographs together. Same geographical location. Same time frame. Same social circle. Within 48 hours, both women were in police custody. Now here's where the investigation becomes genuinely fascinating, because apprehending the women was one challenge.
When we started looking at his download, could see the final communications that he'd had via WhatsApp. He was in a phone call with a number. Once we started doing some research into that phone number, it was identified as belonging to Sapreet Dillon.
Is that the first contact?
Yeah, this is the first contact that's on his download. These are the WhatsApp conversation earlier in the evening between Saul Murray and Sapreet Dillon, the blue and the red. Yeah, hey babe, what are you doing tonight? I'm meant to be going to meet my girl in your area today. Are you busy? And he says he's free until about 1ish. They just have a little discussion about whether they're going to have any drinks, and he says, yeah, why not? She asks for his postcode. He sends her the postcode. It's clear that she had arranged to meet him.
I've never had an internet date or anything, so I don't really know how it works, but that's how people meet nowadays, is via the internet, and people can sell a lie that way, can't they? They can purport to be somebody that they're not.
Sapreet Dillon, she's got 4 police convictions, but 8 offences. 3 fraud, making false representation to make gain for herself or another, and failing to surrender to custody. Possessing without exemption a pit bull terrier, Japanese, Tosa or other designated fighting dog. Possessing a prohibited weapon, being a...
But who were the 2 men? This is where traditional detective work intersected with cutting-edge technology in spectacular fashion. Remember that Mercedes A-Class? The vehicle the 4 of them had travelled in from London? Detectives pulled CCTV footage from the surrounding area near Saul's building. And there it appeared, a Mercedes behaving suspiciously on the night of the murder. Driving slowly, circling the neighborhood, clearly casing the location. They ran the license plate through the system. The car had been rented by Cleon Brown, 29 years old, residing in London. First suspect positively identified. Then they analyzed Cleon Brown's phone data with forensic precision. And here's where it becomes technical. But stay with me because this is absolutely fascinating. Modern smartphones constantly ping cellular towers. They leave an indelible digital trail of everywhere you've been, everyone you've contacted, every movement you've made. Cleon Brown's phone placed him at Saul Murray's exact address on the night of the murder. Irrefutable digital evidence. But the evidence gets even better. His phone records revealed he was in regular contact with another number. Frequent calls, constant text messages, clear communication patterns. That number belonged to Ikem Afia, 31 years old. But Afia was clever, or he believed he was. He'd been using a burner phone for the actual criminal activity. An unregistered phone with no contract. No name attached to it. Significantly harder to trace. But he'd made one critical, fatal mistake. He'd kept his regular personal phone on him throughout. And investigators discovered records of communication between Afia's regular phone and that burner phone. Same individual. 2 phones. Both conclusively placing him at the scene. Second suspect positively identified. Now they had all 4 suspects in their sights. But they needed to prove irrefutably that these were the individuals captured on CCTV. And this is where some brilliant, meticulous detective work comes into play. Examine the CCTV footage again. The man wielding the knife, Ikem Afia. He's wearing a remarkably distinctive jacket. Not just any ordinary jacket. A limited edition Moncler designer coat. High-end. Expensive. Exclusive. Detectives conducted extensive research and discovered something remarkable. This particular coat cost approximately £1,500, and only 69 of them had been sold in the entire United Kingdom. 69 units. That's all. They meticulously traced the sales records, located the delivery addresses, cross-referenced everything. And guess where one of these exclusive jackets had been delivered? To Ikem Afia's partner. At his registered home address. The very jacket he wore while committing murder was so rare, so distinctive, so unique that it became the physical evidence that tied him directly and irrefutably to the crime. But there's more evidence to consider. Remember Cleon Brown? The individual who rented the Mercedes? After the murder, CCTV captured him at a petrol station in London. And what was he doing at 6 a.m. in the morning? Vacuuming the Mercedes. Frantically, desperately cleaning the interior. Attempting to remove evidence. Hair follicles. Clothing fibers. DNA traces. But here's the absolutely incredible part. He was still wearing the identical jogging bottoms he'd worn at Saul's flat just hours earlier. The same ones clearly visible on the CCTV from the murder scene. He was so panicked, so focused on eliminating evidence from the vehicle, he didn't even consider changing his own clothes first. And there's one more piece of technology that definitively sealed the case. Vehicle telematics. Modern rental cars contain GPS tracking systems. They record everywhere the vehicle travels. When it stops. When it starts. When doors open and close. Even when the boot is accessed. The Mercedes had been to Ikem Afia's house before the murder. To Saul Murray's address during the murder. Back to Afia's house after the murder. Every single movement. Every location. Timestamped. Recorded. Undeniable. The digital net had closed completely around all 4 of them. There was no escape. No way out. March 2022. A police station in Luton. One by one, all 4 suspects were brought in for formal questioning. And their reactions? Completely different. Starkly contrasting. And those differences reveal everything you need to know about who these people truly were. Let's begin with Saulpreet Dhillon, 36 years old. The mastermind. The architect of this scheme. The one who'd successfully executed this crime 6 times previously. Police CCTV from the custody suite captured her making a phone call to her young son. He'd just learned about the murder charge against his mother. Can you imagine receiving that news? Listen carefully to what she told him. No, they got that wrong. I'm helping them with it. I'm just helping them. That's not true. Even to her own child, she was fabricating lies, maintaining the deception. Then she added, I'm still here. I've got to sort some stuff out with them. I'm going to be home in the next couple of weeks. 2 weeks. She genuinely believed she'd be released in 2 weeks. The delusion was staggering.
Hi. Oh, I'm still here. I've got to sort some stuff out with them, so I'm not going to be home for like a couple of weeks. I love you. Yeah, I'm going to sort it out so then I can come home, okay? I've just got to help them with some stuff. No, they got that wrong. I'm helping them with it. Yeah, I'm just helping them. That's not true, okay? Okay, that's what they come because they got it all mixed up. But I'm going to sort it out with them, okay?
During her formal police interview, Supreet responded to every single question with just 2 words. No comment. Her demeanor fluctuated wildly, sometimes nervous and fidgeting, sometimes smirking, almost arrogant, as if she still believed she could manipulate her way out of this situation, like she'd done it before and could do it again.
Have you ever had sexual contact with Saul?
No comment.
Have you ever had sex with him?
No comment.
At 2:45, you've gone out into the communal walkway. You go to the front door, you open the front door and you prop it open using one of the brooms in the hallway already. Tell me about why you did that.
No comment.
Who are you leaving the door open for?
No comment.
Why were you leaving it open?
No comment.
So what we believe has happened is that 2 males have been let inside the property by you leaving the front door propped open. There's been some kind of argument and something has happened and then Saul's murdered.
Who are these 2 men?
No comment.
When one of these men leaves, he's clearly got a large knife with him. And we know that Saul was stabbed and received a fatal stab wound. We know that there are drops of blood going out of the flat around the corner, which is Saul's blood, dripping off that knife, no doubt. Okay, so you cannot fail to notice what had gone on in that flat. It's your opportunity now to tell your side of what happened in that flat.
Temideo or presented a completely different picture. 21 years old. The university student. No prior criminal record whatsoever. When detectives interviewed her, she was visibly distraught, shaken, vulnerable, fragile. At one point, she stopped the interview entirely. And she said, these were her exact words, she was gutted that someone had been killed. Gutted. She emphasized repeatedly that she was a third-year undergraduate student, just trying to complete her degree, build a future. The crushing weight of what she'd been involved in was destroying her from the inside. You could see it in her eyes. The realization. The horror. But then, mirroring Supreet's strategy, she switched to the same response. No comment. No comment. No comment.
Police have arrested a second suspect for the honey trap murder of Saul Murray.
Temideo, she's not really known to the police. We don't really know too much about her.
Do you understand why you've been arrested?
I'm trying to make sense of everything.
She is a Coventry University student. Our hasn't got any previous arrests, so she's got no previous convictions. Identifying her is attributed to that phone that Dylan's been in contact with and getting her picture. We can now see that she's quite clearly the second female that enters Saul Murray's address with Dylan.
Yeah.
So we believe this is her on the CCTV. And she's wearing a coat here with a logo on the left arm.
What is this lady's involvement? She looks like she's got a future planned out. She's going to university, she's in her third year as well, so she's not, just dropped out. She's clearly committed.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
That honestly, I am traumatised that I'm here, that I'm linked to any type of murder.
Yeah.
I don't know the poor soul, and I'm very gutted that he did. Honestly, I didn't murder him. I didn't harm him in any type of way. I'm honestly just an undergraduate student. I just wanted to get my degree.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that now.
Okay.
That's all I want to say.
Okay.
There's potential that she's vulnerable herself, and that interview is an opportunity for her to show that. But I'm not convinced it's well within her interests to lie. The stakes are high for her, aren't they? They're massive. If she's convicted of murder, she goes to prison for a large chunk of her life. Sadly, lots of people lie to me. Lots of people lie to the police, and lots of people try and purport to be somebody that they're not.
We have some stills from the CCTV that was taken from the location of the actual murder. Right, female one. Right, that's Supreet. We're saying female 2 is you. Do you agree?
No comment.
Is that you?
No comment.
Because it looks like you.
No comment.
We actually have that coat that we seized from your home address. That's your coat, isn't it? That's what you had on. You come out of the building at 02:27. You come out and you stand outside, and we can see that your phone starts flashing like you're taking pictures. What are you taking pictures of?
No comment.
Were you not taking pictures, or were you just shining a light on your phone?
No comment.
Were you trying to alert others to where you were?
No comment.
Trying to guide them in?
No comment.
That's what you were doing, weren't you?
No comment.
You re-enter on your own, then the males follow you, so basically you're showing them where to come. Do you set Saul up
No comment.
to be murdered?
No comment.
Who was it who actually did the deed?
No comment.
This is all just not a coincidence. Your phone's there, Supreet's is there. That's not a coincidence. So why were you there?
No comment.
It's not looking great, is it?
No comment.
When the Crown Prosecution Service authorized a murder charge against her, she covered her face with both hands, began crying uncontrollably, shaking, asked to sit down. Later, when she was permitted to make a phone call, she held the phone in her trembling hands and simply wept. "Oh God, this is my life. And then, I've let my mum down." You see, Temideo was originally from Nigeria. Her mother had made extraordinary sacrifices to send her daughter to university in the United Kingdom. For a better life. For opportunities that didn't exist back home. For a future filled with promise. And now, her daughter was facing a murder charge. For what? For easy money. For greed. For a shortcut that destroyed everything.
The fact that Saul had GHB in his system, and we think that these girls have drugged him in order to rob him. So the fact we've actually got that in evidence is damning.
Yeah.
So as you know, the officers have been to Crown Prosecution Service to present their case and to get a charging decision. That has come through, and the CPS have authorised a charge of murder against you. Okay? I know it's a lot to take in. Do appreciate that. How are you feeling? No, sit down. Yeah, take it back to your cell. Alright, thank you.
As for the two men, Cleon Brown and Ike Mafia, they also adopted the no-comment strategy throughout their interviews. But Brown? You could see the panic radiating from him when detectives questioned him about vacuuming the rental car just hours after the murder. His facade was crumbling. He knew they had him cornered. The evidence was insurmountable. And Afia? Here's something genuinely bizarre. During his entire interview, he sat beside his solicitor with his jacket covering his complete face and head. The detective requested multiple times that he remove it. He refused every single time. What does that behavior tell you? Overwhelming shame? Crippling fear? A complete inability to face what he'd done? This was the man who'd wielded the knife. The man wearing the £1,500 limited edition jacket that only 69 people in the entire UK owned. And now he couldn't even show his face to the investigators.
Calm. And these are too tight. I'm not going anywhere.
It's going to be like Groundhog Day. I'm going to ask you a lot of the same questions that they asked you down in the Met. All right, okay. I just need to get you booked in. I've got some of the details here.
So we'll start with updates from yesterday then. Great work. We've got Mr. Akim Afia in custody. In relation to fingerprints in the car, they haven't managed to get any fingerprints. What Helen is saying is that it's fairly obvious that that car has been cleaned because you can see like the cloth marks and stuff where things have been wiped down. Moving on then to CCTV.
Effectively all that's been viewed and hasn't taken us any further.
So we need a little breakthrough really, don't we? We need to get him in Luton.
This interview is being visually and audibly recorded and may be given evidence if your case is brought to a trial. Now, before this interview started to be recorded, I said, you've got something on your head, and I've asked that you make sure that you understand what I'm saying. You can hear me, you can see me. If at any stage that isn't going on, I'm going to ask you to remove that. I mean, I can't make you, I'm just saying that it's really important you understand what is being said and that we can communicate clearly, okay? So, in relation to Saturday the 26th to Sunday the 27th of February, did you kill Saul Murray?
No comment.
Did you stab him?
No comment.
Tell me about any involvement you had which resulted in Saul being killed.
No comment.
So CCTV inquiries, we overlaid the telematics with the cell data to try and see whether we could get any CCTV of Ikem with Cleon to prove an association, and you got some CCTV from KFC?
Yeah, so the telematics put the car in a location a couple of days before the incident. So we followed them on that camera and saw them go into KFC.
The imagery is okay. We're obviously seeing the design details there. We've got the logo on the left-hand side of the jacket.
So this coat that he's wearing, Ikem Afia, we've done some inquiries from that, and we think we've identified it as?
It's a Moncler Hans. Moncler have confirmed that that coat that he's wearing in there is that Hans coat. He bought that coat in August last year for £1,335.
And Moncler have said that they've only sold 69 of those coats in the UK?
In the UK, yeah.
You're going to need to go back to footage from the offence location to show that that same coat. I'm hoping that that might be enough to push us over the line in relation to him. Louisa, come and have a look. Oh, it's a coat.
It's a Moncler one. Two-tone.
Yes. This is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So we've got to get ourselves down there to do the reconstruction.
I recommended that it would be a good idea to conduct a reconstruction. There are no irreconcilable differences. There are multiple class characteristic similarities between the two coats, and in my opinion the analysis lends strong support to the contention that Coat X and the Moncler coat are of the same type of design.
have got enough to charge him. I can't think of what else we'd possibly get.
Brilliant. That's great news. Thanks ever so much. I'll get that done this afternoon. All right, lovely.
Okay.
Cheers.
No problem.
Bye. Bye.
The evidence against all four was utterly overwhelming. CCTV footage documenting every movement, phone records placing them at the scene, GPS data tracking their journey, forensic evidence from the apartment, digital footprints they couldn't erase. But they'd all said no comment throughout their interrogations. So it was proceeding to trial, and a jury of their peers would decide their ultimate fate. When the trial commenced, the prosecution systematically laid out their case piece by devastating piece. The Instagram direct messages between Supreet and Saul, the progression to WhatsApp conversations, the CCTV footage showing the entire sequence, the phone data placing everyone at the scene, the car telematics tracking every movement, the distinctive 1,500-pound jacket, the vacuumed Mercedes still containing trace evidence, the forensic evidence from Saul's apartment. It was absolutely overwhelming. Irrefutable. Ikem Afia, the one who'd wielded the knife, attempted a different legal strategy. Midway through the trial, he changed his plea dramatically. He admitted to manslaughter. Yes, I was present. Yes, someone died. But it wasn't murder. It wasn't premeditated. It wasn't planned. But the Crown Prosecution Service categorically rejected that plea. They weren't accepting a reduced charge. They continued to aggressively pursue a murder conviction. Because here's the fundamental truth. 4 people conspired together to rob Saul Murray. They brought a deadly weapon. They used violence. And a man died as a direct result. That's murder under the law. The other 3, Supreet Dillon, Temideo Orr, and Clean Brown, all entered pleas of not guilty to murder. But after seeing all the evidence presented systematically, after hearing all the testimony, after watching the CCTV footage of Saul Murray's final agonizing moments, the jury reached their verdict. Ikem Afia, guilty of murder. Supreet Dillon, guilty of manslaughter. Temideo Orr, guilty of manslaughter. Clean Brown, guilty of manslaughter. The courtroom erupted with emotion. Family members wept openly. Some collapsed in relief, others in continued grief. And then came the sentencing. The judge addressed the 4 convicted killers directly and sternly. He stated that Saul Murray's life had been cut brutally short. And then he said something that should echo in all of our minds. Nothing this court says or does could possibly repair the cavernous void in the hearts and lives of those to whom Saul Murray meant so much. Consider those words carefully. 6 children without their father, parents without their son, siblings without their brother, all because of greed. Pure, insatiable greed. The judge continued. He acknowledged that the plan had gone catastrophically wrong, but exactly what went wrong was beyond the court's capacity to be sure of within the available evidence. We'll never know with complete certainty what happened in that apartment during those critical minutes. But we know the horrific result. The judge also had specific, pointed words for Supreet Dillon. He stated she had lived a predatory lifestyle by systematically targeting men on social media. He added, something that seemed like an easy money game had the potential to go very, very wrong. And it did. Catastrophically, irreversibly wrong. The sentences were handed down. Ikem Afia, 31 years old, the man who wielded the knife, 25 years in prison. Clean Brown, 29 years old, the getaway driver, 11 years in prison. Supreet Dillon, 36 years old, the mastermind, 10 years in prison. Temideo Orr, 21 years old, the student, 7 years in prison. 4 lives completely destroyed. 1 life brutally ended. 6 children left without a father. All for fake Rolex watches. But before we close this story, there's something you need to hear. Because the real tragedy, the real cost of this crime, can't be measured in prison sentences or courtroom verdicts. It can be measured in the words of one man. Colin Murray, Saul's father. In a victim impact statement read to the court, Colin described his son as a wonderful son. But then he said something that will stay with me forever. I had to watch him die on CCTV. Let that statement sink in for a moment. A father forced to watch security footage of his son's final moments. Watching him stumble into that hallway, naked, bleeding profusely, desperately fighting to survive. Watching him reach for that door. Watching him collapse. Watching him die. Colin continued. It is the last thing I think about before going to sleep and the first thing I think about when I wake up. Every single night as he tries to sleep. Every single morning when he wakes. That image permanently burned into his mind. His son. Dying alone in a hallway. Bleeding out. Calling for help that never came in time. Saul's family also released a public statement. Saul was a beautiful soul. A loving father, son, brother, uncle, and friend. He was hardworking and enjoyed life and loved his children. You'll be missed by us all. RIP. A beautiful soul. That's who Saul was to the people who loved him deeply. Not a target. Not a victim. Not a statistic. Not a news headline. A father. A son. A brother. A human being. A man who'd made mistakes. Yes, absolutely. He'd been to prison. He'd made poor choices in his past. But he was actively trying to change. Transform his life. He'd just secured a fresh start. A new apartment. A new chapter. New possibilities. He wanted desperately to be there for his 6 children. And then an Instagram direct message arrived. From a woman who saw him not as a person with hopes and dreams, but as a payday. An opportunity. A target. And now those 6 children have to grow up without their father. Now Colin Murray has to live with those horrific images replaying in his mind every day and every night. Now Saul's mother, his siblings, his extended family, his friends, they all have to exist with this loss. Forever. That's the real cost of this crime. The human toll that can never be repaid. So what have we learned from this tragedy? We've learned that 6 successful robberies gave Sapreet Dillon the dangerous confidence to attempt a 7th. We've learned that Instagram posts flaunting expensive possessions can make you a target for predators you'll never see coming until it's too late. We've learned that GHB doesn't always work exactly the way criminals expect it to. We've learned that CCTV cameras are everywhere, recording everything, and modern criminals cannot escape their unblinking gaze. We've learned that modern technology, phone data, GPS telematics, digital footprints, makes it virtually impossible to get away with serious crime in 2024. We've learned that a £1,500 designer jacket, so rare that only 69 were sold in the entire UK, can become the physical evidence that convicts you. We've learned that vacuuming a rental car while still wearing the same clothes you wore during a murder is, well, not the most intelligent decision. But most importantly, we've learned that greed, pure, simple, insatiable greed, can transform a robbery into a murder in seconds. And all of it, every single decision that led to Saul Murray bleeding to death in that hallway, every choice that brought 4 people together on that February night. It was all for absolutely nothing. Because remember those Rolex watches? The ones Saul was proudly displaying on Instagram? The ones that made him a target? The ones that 4 people conspired to steal? They were counterfeits. Cheap knockoffs. Worth maybe a few pounds at most. Saul Murray died for fake watches. Sapreet Dillon is serving 10 years in prison for fake watches. Temideo or threw away her university degree, her future, and her mother's extraordinary sacrifices for fake watches. Clean Brown is imprisoned for 11 years for fake watches. And Ikem Afia, the man who wielded the knife, is spending 25 years behind bars for fake watches. 4 people completely destroyed their lives. 6 children lost their father. A family lost their beloved son. All for worthless, fake Rolex watches. There's a saying, isn't there? All that glitters is not gold. And in this case, all that glittered on Instagram wasn't real. But the consequences? Those were devastatingly, permanently real. Saul Murray was 33 years old when he died. He was a father of 6 children. He was desperately trying to turn his life around. And he deserved better than to die bleeding and alone in a hallway. May he rest in peace. If this case demonstrates anything, it's that the digital trails we leave on Instagram, on WhatsApp, through our phones, through our vehicles, they are permanent. They are traceable. And they can be used to uncover the truth. Justice for Saul Murray came from CCTV cameras, phone records, GPS data, and one remarkably distinctive designer jacket. Technology might help criminals identify their victims. But that same technology will help catch them. Every single time. If you found this case as tragic and shocking as I did, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me continue bringing you these stories every week. Leave a comment below letting me know your thoughts on this case. Until next time, stay safe out there.